Robert Dilts has been one of the pioneers during the early development of neuro-linguistic programming, and a few decades ago he published an immense work called Strategies of Geniuses, where he took the thoughts and writings of geniuses like Einstein, Leo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla and noticed what were the common mutual patterns that kept coming back. In this video we will study the 7 principles that I personally found the most useful from all the things he noticed into each of those geniuses, and how could you apply them yourself if you have a project you are working on, something you want to develop, or a field of competence you want to study and master yourself. The first principle is the ability to shift between states of consciousness. He was talking about that in his book on Leo da Vinci, talking about moments where da Vinci was explaining that he would stare at a wall and his thoughts would be almost daydreaming to some extent, and out of magic he would have the right answer to a problem he was trying to solve. That being linked with many other writings of other authors, he noticed it was always this kind of in-time process, this in-trance process, that every genius has a different way of accessing his personal trances. For some people it will be through music, for others it will be through writing. Everyone has his favorite way of doing that. However, you will probably not achieve a high level of success in whatever you're doing if you never have the ability to drop down and stop overthinking consciously and just cut down the thoughts and drop and let your thoughts daydreaming or just do random things at the moment where you relax. And those are the moments where your brain is having the best breakthroughs. Number 2, accept uncertainty when starting a project. This was, I think, a Heisenberg principle that in physics that you will never be able to know everything that will be, that is, and that has been. Something around those lines. Basically, if you try to understand something before taking action and before experimenting in the real world, your brain will always stay paralyzed and stuck. It needs movement to create thoughts and new perception and new understandings. If there is never action in the real world, nothing will change. This idea of accepting uncertainty is to accept that even if everything is accessible on the internet, in the books, on YouTube, whatever, even with that, you will just not understand what you need until you have used the little you knew in the real world, and that goes through action. Then you come back to reading and you will have new understandings about the thing you are studying. And even if you think you master something, you have studied everything, there are still new perceptions and new understandings you don't have yet because you haven't crossed that level yet. So that is scary because no one wants to take action without being sure that it will work, but it is specifically this process of taking action without being sure while accepting uncertainty of the result that will make you progress into anything. Number 3 is to simplify the topic of study and to delete all the unnecessary. So obviously you start with a clear outcome in mind, and NLP models and coaching models of all sorts have many models for how to define a clear outcome. Then it is a matter of sacrifice. How much can you sacrifice from the field of study to only focus on your outcome? If you study NLP, if you study hypnosis, probably some things into NLP and hypnosis seem confusing for you right now, I guess. If you are watching this, probably some things seem confusing, and the big matter here is how much of those confusing things can you delete, sacrifice, accept to not understand, accept to not know about it, to only focus on the main thing that will get you closer to your outcome. If you just take one problem you have in your mind right now and notice what is the only one relevant, important thing I need to focus on, and how much can I delete from my thinking, from my obsession? Whenever I think about it, how much can I just delete and dismiss? Number 4 is to improve your flexibility between levels of thinking. That one is trickier for people who don't already have a background into NLP. Shifting between levels of thinking is, as Einstein said, a problem will not or cannot be solved at the level it was created. We may find many explanations and discoveries through that sentence. Basically, for example, if you think in your own perception, you are yourself, you are Johnny, Stuart, Mark, whatever, you are yourself. If you stay stuck on a problem in your own position, that may never be solved. However, if you start getting into the shoes mentally of an expert, so now you are not Johnny anymore, you are Milton Erickson, you are Tony Robbins, you are Bandler, or you are Robert Dilts eventually, you go into their shoes and you think again about that problem. How would they act upon this? If they were with me right now, what would they say? There you are shifting the perceptual position, which is also the basis of NLP modeling, what they developed years ago, which was at the origin of every other NLP tool. And when you get into the shoes mentally of somebody else, your perception will change and you may definitely have new discoveries about the main thing you are struggling with right now. That is one example of shifting the levels of thinking. Not yourself anymore, somebody else who may have the answers, or at least who probably have more answers than you do because that person is simply more advanced. We have the other models for the levels of thinking. What Robert Dilts developed called the pyramid of logical levels is another one. Noticing whenever you are stuck somewhere in life or nothing is clear enough in the thing you are studying, the thing you want to develop your skills into. Notice at which level the problem is located. When it is about identity, beliefs, attitudes, values, skill set, behaviors, environment, which of those levels is responsible, in your opinion, for your problem? And now, what if we were shifting that level? If you say it is an environment problem because you are stuck in a shitty room, in a shitty city you don't want to live in anymore, okay, that is in your perception an environment problem, then what if we were shifting to an identity thinking? How can I become the person who can get out of there? Or how could I become the person who enjoys his life or her life despite being stuck in that environment? When thinking like this, you will always open new perceptions and solve problems way faster than by ruminating thoughts again and again, like most people do, on the same problem over and over again. Or even with the five senses, when we play with some modalities, something you see that is terrifying, difficult to look at because it is so scary. Okay, what if we could just talk to yourself with a very warm and gentle voice, so that when you look at that picture, you notice how many things are not scary anymore. You know, therefore we shift from visual to auditory, another example of the levels of thinking, and we can do that through the gustatory, through the kinesthetic, anything. We have 1,000 different combinations here, obviously, even dozens of thousands. The point is just how long can you alternate, how long can you stay flexible when something doesn't work out, so that you don't stay stuck in the same way of failing at something that matters to you. Number 5 is to generalize into 3 big principles everything you are learning. It goes, I would say, hand in hand with the simplification of a topic of study, because if you had to focus on only 3 big areas. So you study NLP, or you study how to play the piano, or you study how to become an engineer, how to become a programmer, whatever you do. If you had to accept that there are only 3 main principles, 3 main big areas, and anything else is irrelevant, what would be those 3? And how could you focus more on each of those instead of staying paralyzed into too many thoughts about, oh yeah, but there is this book, there I should also do that. No. 3 main things. That's all. 3 main principles you can think about right now that are the most relevant ones into the field of study that matters to you the most at this point in your life. What would they be? And how can you develop your skills more into those 3 areas? Number 6 is to incorporate all the elements of the system into the thinking, into the problem you want to solve with your competence, with the thing you want to achieve in life. Incorporating all the elements is also calling back to a systemic principle called retroaction, I think, not sure, about the idea that one small element in the system might be responsible for all the problems or might hold the solution, and that one small tiny element might not be the one you thought about initially. For example, there was a story about a company in the US long ago. I'm not sure if that story is a metaphor or not. I heard it from my professor of systemic back in university in 2014. And he said in that company in the US, there was like 10, 12 employees. One of those employees was very old. An old guy who was not really productive in the company. He was not really efficient. He was not the fastest. He was not completing the task really brilliantly, and the other 10-11 guys were very fast, very smart, very rapid fire, like crushing goals. And at some point the owners of the company just fired the old guy because he would be wasting too much time. Why should we pay for that guy? He's just wasting our time. Fine. Curiously, during the 6 months after that old guy was fired from the company, all the other people, their productivity dropped, and they were less productive, less efficient, completing less tasks from the things they had to do, and the owners wondered why. And they hired a coach at some point. Long story short, the coach explained that that old guy who was there, sure, he was not the most productive, sure, he was not the fastest, most brilliant guy in the company. However, he had a very positive attitude, and he would warm everybody's day during the day. Every day he would make jokes, he would have fun with the younger people, he would bring some cakes. He would bring such a positive attitude and atmosphere in the company that everyone else would be more compelled to work and more driven by the things they were doing. When you get that guy out, yes, it seems like a good idea from a financial perspective, but it drops down the level of all the other employees. That is an example of retroaction. One small element can affect the whole system, and you may not target the right element when you think about your problems in life. Quite often the problems we obsess over are not the ones we need to solve. If something stays stuck in your life, it means you are not looking at the right place. You need to shift your focus to some other element that may seem completely irrelevant, like, oh yeah, I will take care of that later. Actually, that is maybe the thing you need to take care of right now, as of today, because it is the one that will lead to a positive outcome faster for you. And number 7 is quite undervalued, underestimated. It is to always print and project your ideas on a tangible support. It might be through writing, it might be through collecting images and sticking them on the wall, it might be through recording yourself and listening to yourself, or like drawing diagrams, pictures, making schemes, making circles. Whatever it is, just get everything that is inside, outside, on a tangible surface that can be seen, touched, or understood by others, because that way it will clarify all the mess that is lying in your head. If it is too messy, the traditional way of doing that is to hold a journal. Obviously, everyone knows about that, but you may find other ways. It might be through collecting pictures that are symbols of your problem, of the thing you want to develop. You may take a symbol of that and, for example, create something I had done one time, create a surface. You just put all the symbols of the things you want to achieve, and you put symbols of where you are here in life. So you have a line on the left, you put how you look like, what you look like right now. On the right, in the future, in the Western perspective, the future is on the right. You put all the images or symbols of what you want to accomplish. And you notice, okay, from A to B, what is stuck? What is preventing A from going to B? What is it? If it is just in your head, it might be ruminating, oh yeah, because this person doesn't like me, blah, blah, blah. Way too confusing. When you put that visually on a clear structure, curiously, many problems will start finding solutions faster than you may think of. because now you have something outside of your own head to project your dramatic and confusing thoughts onto. When it is projecting on the outside, everything is easier to solve because you can see it from a different perspective, again, coming back from shifting the levels of thinking. So always projecting your discoveries and ideas and projects on a tangible structure support, whether it is visual, auditory, you just record sounds, you just put voice notes to yourself, or you just assemble music, songs that evoke to you the feelings you want to feel more often, for example, or something more physical, you just ground, you just anchor spaces in your own house for where do you want to think about this, to think about that, to put you in the right state whenever you get into that room, into your own office, your own house, and that will help your system to assemble itself and reorganize itself clearly. One big problem of human beings is the mental mess. To have too many things, to not know anymore what to focus on, too many emotional rage or whatever is being stuck. That is usually way too much, way too confusing, and the whole point of succeeding and the whole road to succeed as a human is to clarify and make things simpler. That being said, you can discover many more things about neuro-linguistic programming and the sleight of mouth by downloading the few documents down below in the description, one on the fundamentals of NLP and one on sleight of mouth, how to articulate, how to be more influential with your language whenever you want to help others or solve some problems from people who have trouble to find the solutions by themselves. You have those down below in the description. Thank you for listening and see you soon in the next video.